Picture a 1-year-old at her own birthday party. There's a cake with a single candle, a room full of faces singing to her, the feeling of frosting on her hands. She is laughing. She's completely there. And in about 2 years, every trace of this afternoon will be gone from her permanently, as if it never happened at all. That child is you. Somewhere in your past, there's a first birthday, a first word, the first face you ever loved, thousands of days of being alive, and you cannot reach a single second of it. Most people remember almost nothing before the age of 3 or 4. This is so normal that we barely question it. But stop and look at it directly, and it becomes one of the strangest facts about your own mind. Because here's what most people assume, that those years are blank because nothing was really recorded. A baby's brain is half built, the thinking goes, too unfinished to hold on to anything. The memories aren't lost, they were simply never made. For about 100 years, that was the standard answer, and it turns out to be wrong. Your infant brain was recording, the memories were made, and there is now good reason to think a version of them is still inside you right now. By the end of this, I'll tell you the one thing that might briefly crack the door open on a memory you were certain you'd lost forever. The scientific name for this gap is infantile amnesia. Almost every human has it, across cultures, across centuries. People's earliest accessible memory lands somewhere around age 3, with everything before it fading into a kind of soft static. A few fragments survive, a patch of sunlight on a floor, a dog, a staircase, but the continuous movie of those years is gone for everyone, which is the first clue that this isn't about you having a bad memory. It's built in. It happens on a schedule. So for decades, the explanation pointed at the obvious suspect, the hippocampus. The hippocampus is a small seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain, and it's the part that stitches an experience into a memory you can later replay. In a newborn, the hippocampus is still wiring itself together. The reasoning was clean and convincing. No finished recorder, no recording. Case closed. Except nobody had actually watched it happen. You can't ask a baby what it remembers, and you can't easily put a wriggling infant inside a brain scanner and get usable data. So the recorder theory sat there for a century, comfortable and untested, mostly because testing it seemed impossible. Then recently, a team at Yale found a way. They managed to scan the brains of awake babies, some as young as 4 months, while the infants looked at pictures. The setup was simple. Show the baby a new image, watch the hippocampus, then later show that same image next to a brand new one and see which the baby stares at longer. Babies, like adults, look longer at things they recognize. That lingering look is the tell. It's a baby quietly saying, "I've seen this before." And the babies did recognize them. When an infant later remembered an image, you could see why on the scan. At the moment they first saw it, their hippocampus had lit up. The harder it worked while looking, the more likely that image was to be recognized later. So the recorder isn't broken in infancy. It's running. Some of these memory mechanisms are switched on and working before a baby can even speak, which detonates the old story. If the memories are being encoded, then the reason you can't find them isn't that they were never written down. Sit with that, because it reframes the whole mystery. The problem was never the recording. The problem is the playback. Think of your earliest years as a library where the books were all written and shelved correctly, and then someone changed the language of the catalog. The books are still on the shelves, the words are still inside them, but the index that tells you where to look and how to ask for them has been swapped out for a completely different system. You're standing in a library full of your own life, holding a card that no longer matches anything. So why would your brain lock its own memories away? This is where it stops being a flaw and starts looking like a design choice, and there are a few forces doing it at once. The first is that your infant brain was changing too fast to keep stable files. Early childhood is the most explosive growth your brain will ever do. It's manufacturing neurons and wiring connections at a staggering rate, and crucially, it's also pruning, cutting away cells and links it decides it doesn't need. A memory isn't a thing sitting in one spot. It's a specific pattern spread across a web of connected neurons. Now take that web and rebuild it, aggressively, month after month. The pattern that was the memory of your first birthday is still encoded somewhere in the structure, but the structure around it has been renovated so completely that the original address no longer leads anywhere. The memory didn't get deleted, the map to it did. The second force is language, and this one is sharper than it sounds. Almost all of your adult memories are quietly held together by words. You remember your day as a story you could tell, but your infant self had no words. It experienced the world as raw sensation, warmth, a face, a sound, a feeling of being held. Those experiences were encoded in a format that had nothing to do with language because you didn't have any yet. Then you learned to talk, and your entire system for storing and retrieving memories reorganized itself around words and narrative. Your adult mind is trying to read wordless files with software that only understands sentences. The data is there, it's just written in a language you stopped speaking before you could speak at all. The third force is yourself. To file a memory as a memory of mine, you need a stable idea of who me even is, a stable character that experiences are happening to. That self isn't something you're born with, it assembles slowly across your early years, the dawning understanding that you are a separate person, persisting through time, with a past and a future. Before that self fully forms, experiences are happening, but there's no narrator yet to catch them and label them yours. The footage was shot before anyone had been hired to keep the archive, so three things are happening at once. The neural map is being torn up and redrawn, the filing language is being switched from sensation to words, and the self that owns the memories is still under construction. Any one of these would scramble your access. Together, they seal those years off almost completely. Not because nothing happened, because everything about how your brain stores a life changed right on top of where those memories were kept. And here's the part I find genuinely hard to let go of. Those early experiences don't actually vanish, even when you can't consciously reach them. They quietly built you. The way you were held as an infant shaped how safe you feel in relationships now. The sounds around your crib tuned the accent and rhythm you'd speak in for life. The language spoken over you wired the grammar your adult brain treats as obvious. You are, in a real sense, walking around as the finished product of a childhood you can't remember living. The memories you lost are not gone, they became you. You can't recall them because you're standing inside them. Which brings me back to the door I promised to crack open. If these memories were encoded and not erased, can anything reach them? Mostly no, but there's one route that occasionally works, and it isn't a thought, it's a smell. Smell is the one sense that bypasses your brain's normal memory filing and wires almost directly into the structures that handle emotion and old memory. It doesn't go through words, it doesn't need the catalog. So every so often a specific smell, a particular soap, a relative's kitchen, the inside of an old coat will hit you and summon a wave of something with no picture and no story attached. Just a powerful, wordless sense of a place you can't name and a time you can't locate. People describe it as a feeling older than memory. That may be exactly what it is. Not a recovered video, but a finger brushing the spine of one of those sealed books in the original language for a single second. You didn't lose those years. You were there for every one of them, fully alive, taking it all in. They're still in the building. You've just been handed the wrong key. And once in a while, through your nose of all things, the lock turns. So the next time a smell stops you cold and you can't say why, consider that you might be standing closer to your own beginning than you've been in a very long time, remembering something you were always told you'd forgotten.